Hello everyone, welcome to Heavy Rotations. My name is Tom Jennings. I'm here with my son Trevor. Just a little bit about this show. This, I believe, is episode 5. And
I think it's 7, actually.
It's not that much.
It's at least 6. I think it's 7.
I think it's 5. But anyhow, the point of the show is that it's an opportunity for a father and son to share music. What we do is we exchange an album, and we get the opinion on that album from the other person in the hopes that it's something that they like and it's something they consider to become a part of their selection. So sort of going back to my youth when, you know, friends would do that. You just be like, dude, you got to hear this album, and we'd give it to them, and, you know, hopefully they'd like it, and hopefully they'd give it back too, you know, that kind of thing. So this week, it's Trevor's turn. Trevor's up to give me the record. So I will let you take it from here. Tell me what you gave me and tell me why you gave this to me. Like, what was your reasoning behind it?
So I gave you an album by Taj Mahal. Mm-hmm. Now, Taj Mahal, I think a lot of people think of him as a blues artist because he is. He's recognized as a blues artist. I picked up this album for the song Johnny Too Bad because it's a reggae song by the Slickers that I really used to like, and I just decided to check it out. It's a bit worn, so it was a bit of a cheaper album. Now, I gave it to you because the reason why I even knew who Taj Mahal was is because your favorite movie, which you made us watch all the time, The Blues Brothers, had the song She Caught the Katy.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, I know Taj Mahal. I know that song. But I was like, what is this? Like, this is like a reggae record by him. And at the time, I was super into reggae. I had gotten into Sublime from a friend who had got me super into Sublime. And I started going down this rabbit hole of all the roots because they actually covered a lot of old reggae artists, like tons of, 5446 is a cover, Pawn Shop is a cover, but there's a countless amounts. I have like a whole playlist I devoted to just finding all these old reggae bands that they used to cover and punk bands and stuff. And they didn't cover Johnny Too Bad, but that was kind of one of the songs I fell on and kind of how got me super into reggae. So I saw that song and I was like, man, I really want to pick this up and just give it a listen. It was cheap. I was just getting into records. And I figured I'd give it to you thinking when you picked it up, I thought you were going to take it and be like, oh, I know who Taj Mahal is. He does She Caught the Katy. Right. He's a blues artist. Cool, you gave me a blues record. Fantastic. Hoping that you put it on and be kind of pleasantly surprised at the fact that, you know, he has a lot of roots in, you know, world music and
roots, right?
Yeah, roots in world music, and is very kind of multifaceted in that sense. I think this is, you know, a demonstration of how an artist can be extremely multifaceted. Because I bought this for just a few bucks, and I've probably played it like 20, 30 times. Like it's one of my favorite records and one of my favorite covers of Johnny Too Bad. Cool.
Well, you know, I think there's a couple things we can kind of discuss here, especially for people that are vinyl record collectors and the thrill of discovery. You know what I mean? Like you talk about those rabbit holes, you know, where you find different artists through other artists and whatnot. So the reason I found Taj Mahal is through my favorite artist, Todd Rundgren, because Taj Mahal played a song with Todd Rundgren on a show called Night Music. So Todd was the musical guest, Taj Mahal was the musical guest. I didn't make the connection on She Caught the Katy until many years later. Yeah, which is weird. But, I mean, I know the song, obviously, from the Blues Brothers, but I never really looked to see who was the original person that performed it. So when I found that out, I was pleasantly surprised. And I found that out on the show that he did with Todd Rundgren because he performed it. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that he originally did this song. So, and, you know, like I said, it's interesting that you can find an album that is cheaper that you can take a chance on. You know what I mean? Like you go through the record store bins and you pull something out. I mean, when I was younger, my God, you know, they used to have these things called cutouts where they cut the corner out and they were in the bargain bin or whatever. And if you had any inkling that you knew something about the artist or a particular song on it that you liked, you would just pull the record and be like, wow, you know, I'll give this a shot. And you'd find some great records that way. So I think that's cool. I love the backstory on how you found it. And in terms of the record, you know, obviously you know my tastes. I think you had a pretty good idea that this was something that would be in my wheelhouse. I mean, it's 1974. You know, a lot of the music artists that I listened to kind of came of age in the 70s. I think Taj is, I mean, do you know anything about his origins? When did he start out? Was he was late 60s, early 70s, or do you even know?
It sounds about right. I think this is either his 6th or 7th album. So this is fair, and he has a lot of albums. So I think this is very early in his career. And I think this is one of the few kind of reggae albums they did. I haven't gotten super into his discography by any means. I have a couple of like best of blues records that has like She Caught the Caddy, and then I literally just picked this up on a whim. Literally for one song, and then I've basically fallen in love with the record. And this actually has a ton of covers. There's a few traditionals. Blackjack Davy's a traditional, so is the Cajun Waltz. Slave Driver's a Bob Marley song. And I think there's a few other just traditionals. There's like 3 or 4 that he actually did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, he's 78 years old, so I mean, he's still around too, which is interesting. A lot of these blues players kind of kick around forever, but yeah, I didn't necessarily. It was interesting because we were discussing that it was a reggae record, and I was like, Taj Mahal reggae. I thought Taj Mahal was blues, you know.
Well, when you Google him, it literally says Taj Mahal blues musician. That's why it's kind of a unique record. And
I think when artists kind of get out of their comfort zone and they try to kind of step into other genres, it can sometimes it could be a complete disaster. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's not your, you know, I think of Garth Brooks. I know you're not a big Garth Brooks fan, but Garth Brooks did this project called Chris Gaines where he tried to pretend that he was like a rock musician, and it just didn't work because Garth Brooks is great at country, but he just wasn't really a rock performer.
Yeah.
Neil Young, back in, I want to say the 80s, he did like an electronic album, ran his voice through a synthesizer, Then he did like a rockabilly album, and he did a, 1950s style album, and it was kind of hit or miss. Neil Young's one of those artists that he can kind of pull off other genres. But I thought Taj Mahal, he seemed very comfortable playing reggae. It didn't, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of like full-blown Bob Marley style reggae.
Reggae.
I like it. I listen to it. It's like one of those things that if it's on, I'm not going to turn it off because I enjoy it, but like I don't really seek it out a lot.
Yeah. But this also isn't a total like reggae record.
No,
like, I would definitely still say it's a reggae record. That seems to be kind of what it's gearing towards.
Right.
But it's not like a full blown like roots reggae record. I almost think of this like the title Mo Roots. Like I think of it as he's getting in touch with the roots of his influences. So he's paying tribute by doing some covers and doing some traditionals, and not necessarily trying to make a reggae record, but just trying to be like, these are the roots of the music that I'm playing. He's kind of offering another side to, his influences and his musicality.
Yeah, man, I think like I look at Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton, one of his biggest hits was I Shot the Sheriff, which was a Bob Marley song.
Yeah.
Now, Clapton's approach to I Shot the Sheriff doesn't really sound reggae.
Right.
Bob Marley's version sounds really reggae. Clapton's sounds like classic rock,
Right.
Whereas I think Taj Mahal is kind of in the middle there. His songs sound that you hear the reggae influence, but it's not so far off into roots reggae land.
Yeah.
I'd be interested. Hopefully, somebody that's watching this owns this album or is at least familiar with it, because I would think that this is an album that was at least somewhat popular amongst a certain core group of people. Now, Merle Saunders is one of the players on here that I noticed when I was looking it up, and he played with Jerry Garcia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a piano player that played in Jerry Garcia's band for many years, and he did an album with Jerry, so you kind of got that whole Grateful Dead connection. And I know, like you said, when you like Grateful Dead collectors and like Todd Rundgren collectors, like Sublime collectors, you always try to go for those roots, tentacles, and this Taj Mahal album might be something that a Grateful Dead fan would pick up because Merle Saunders is on it.
Well, it's kind of like how the Dead covered a lot of. They still, not still, but they've covered a lot of old country tunes, a lot of old bluegrass tunes, and people think of them as like a jam band, but like they have roots in bluegrass, and they have all these artists have a lot of roots elsewhere, and like Sublime's thought of this like punk ska reggae band or whatever. But they took influence from this super roots reggae and then this like almost all this super hard punk too, which they also didn't. They did it in a way where like it was their own, but it kind of left a lot for like a listener to like. They think of it originally like, okay, this is their song, you fall in love with it, but then you hear the cover and you're like, wow, this is totally different.
Yeah.
But this is like it almost gets you more in touch with the artist and makes you love kind of both sides more because everything's just kind of progressing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I think too, like when I think about people that have a lot of songs covered, I think of like Bob Dylan. You know, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, people have discussions about Bob Dylan, how most of the cover songs, you know, a lot of people prefer Bob Dylan cover songs, but they don't necessarily like Bob Dylan. You know,
true. I'm not necessarily a Bob Dylan fan, but I hear some of his songs covered by artists. I'm like, wow, this is a great song.
Yeah, I mean, Jimi Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower. You know, I mean, you know, you think of that as a Jimi Hendrix song. It's been covered by Dave Matthews Band. You know, a whole bunch of other people. U2 did it, and then Bob Dylan did it. But you don't necessarily think of it as a Bob Dylan song. You kind of think of it as a song a lot of people have covered. So I think that, you know, from what you're telling me, this is kind of that sort of collection where there's songs on here that other people have covered, but still, you know, your choices are one, you just do it straight ahead, as close to the original as possible to sell it or whatever, or you put your own imprint on it and kind of make it your own and, you know, put your unique spin on it. So,
well, it's kind of, I think a lot of artists approach art like traditionals. Like there's songs here that really can't be traced back to a real origin because they've just been passed along for so long, where the actual original recording or original writer is kind of lost, and now every time it's played, it's completely reinterpreted, which is kind of, you know, a unique thing that, you know, music has and can offer to the world.
Yeah, and with a traditional song, you can also toy with the lyrics a little bit or the titles because you're not going to offend the original songwriter because you don't really know who it is, you know.
Yeah.
So that gives the artist a little bit more room to kind of play with, and of course they don't have to pay the royalties or any of that kind of stuff too, which makes it that much more attractive. But obviously that's not the main reason that people do traditional songs, but certainly I'm sure that comes into play. But I don't think, you know, we typically ask if you've seen this artist perform live, but I mean Taj really doesn't come around here very often, does he?
He'd be one of those guys like you know, I'd pay a lot of money just to see him. I feel like it'd be a special experience. You know, someone with his experience and talent would just be, I feel like it'd be like just an extraordinary experience to just be in the crowd and witness him live. So I would love to, but I have yet to.
Yeah, I don't remember him coming through. I mean, I assume he would play clubs or mid-sized venues, but he doesn't come around a lot. And again, being 78 years old, I mean, he may not even tour anymore for that matter. We'd probably have to take a look in that. So I guess, you know, you're going to ask me what my favorite song is on the record.
Yeah, I don't know if you had one.
I did. I liked that Big Mama. I thought that was, and probably the reason is because it felt to me like the most kind of like when I think of Taj Mahal.
Yeah, I think that was actually
that's the one that really sounds the most like what I think of when I think of Taj Mahal.
Yeah,
you know, like for my friends over the years that have listened to his music and, you know, if I've heard it on the radio or stuff like that, that's kind of like, oh, yeah, that definitely sounds like Taj Mahal. And I think he's one of those artists, too, that kind of falls into that category where, you know, you hear him maybe on the radio or like an NPR show or something like that, and you just go, oh, you know, this is just really good music. He may not be a household name, but certainly he's one of those people that there's really nothing about his music that's so out there that it's going to turn people off. You know?
And I think a lot of people would attribute to him as an influence too. Like I think a lot of artists that people would see today, you know, would be like, oh yeah, you know, I fell in love with Taj Mahal when I was younger. I grabbed one of his records, and he's been a huge influence on me.
Yeah, so he's probably, you know, like a musician's musician, as they say.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, great selection. I enjoyed it, and you definitely picked one that was good for me. And then next week we're gonna shift roles, and you'll be listening to one of my albums and telling me what you think. And,
well, would you put this one in your collection?
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
If you found it
absolutely.
Or anything?
Yeah, I mean, we've already, you know, it's funny. Like we've done this for a little while. And there's one of the albums, you know, the Courtney Barnett, which I sent you a picture, and I actually did buy a copy of it because I enjoyed it, which is the way. And that's ultimately the goal here, is that we want to be able to give something to the other person that, like I said, I mean, if I saw a copy of this for $4 or $5 in the record bin, yeah, absolutely, I'd pick it up.
Now you would, but
prior
to knowing.
Prior to that, I'd probably similar situation to you, is if maybe there was a day where, you know, I didn't find anything else and I kind of stumbled across this and it was $2 or $3. I mean, I might throw it in my stack because, you know, again, I know it's not like I don't know who the guy is. You know, it's not a complete crapshoot. So, but yeah, definitely a good selection.
Well, cool.
All right, and everybody, please, again, you know, we hope you're enjoying these discussions. and we'll take any requests. You know, if you want us to both talk about an album, share it. We'll take guests too. We're kind of working on that. Some people have asked to be a guest on the show, so we're going to sort of coordinate that. But the only way we can grow it is to share it, give us your comments, subscribe to the channel, and you know, of course, just give us money, lots of money. No, you don't need to do that yet. Someday someday we'll find a record label that'll just give us money to review all their records.
Man, that'll be nice. I would be nice.
Then we could just retire.
I guess I could do that for a living.
You know, absolutely. So anyhow, on behalf of myself and my son Trevor, thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of Heavy Rotations. We'll see you next Thursday. What the fuck?
Keep it going.
Just keep it running. Keep it running.